Okay, good morning, supply chainers. My name is Jose Velasquez. I'm the Executive Director of the SCM Blended Program. I'm with me, my friend.
Hi, I'm Katie Tate. I'm the Manager of Corporate Outreach here at the Center.
Okay, so it's really a great pleasure to be here. I think it's the first time that actually I'm with you here discussing about the Blended Program and mainly all the information regarding the application and the research project. And also the intention of this session is to go through some of the questions you've been sending to the MicroMasters team and also to the SCM program. So let me just start by introducing myself properly. Well, as you know, I was recently appointed as the Executive Director of the SCM Blended Program. And I'm a research scientist here at the Center for Transportation and Logistics. And I lead two initiatives, the Sustainable Logistics and also the Supply Chain for Small Firms. Prior to joining to this group of the SCM program, I was the director of the GC-Log program, this certificate program that is designed for undergraduate students from Latin America. And at the same time, the director of the Scale Network for Latin America. And well, it's really a privilege to be now part of this great experience, some of the most important innovations in education that we have in the world, and of course here at MIT. So also we wanted to discuss a little bit about this innovation. As you know, some of you or many of you have started actually like a couple of years, right?
2 years ago. So some of you have been with us since the very beginning in October of 2015. So it's been quite the journey for all of you taking all these courses. And it's been very exciting for us here at the center as well to start with just one course and have it build to 3 courses and now 5 courses. And now we're here with the opportunity for you guys to come to MIT, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, as you know, in this blended experience, the idea was to take the best of 2 worlds. Right, so you've been actually receiving tons of lectures with all the team of Chris Kaplis and Eva Ponce, and the idea is to try to complement that education with a residential experience, and to put this residential experience, what could be better than to be part of the SCM program, which is the most respected master program in supply chain management in the world.
In the world, yeah.
Exactly. So, but then because of this innovation, which is actually the first blended program here at MIT. Of course, we've been having some challenges as well, mainly with the application process, because many of the questions that you've been having during these last weeks or months are new also for us. So this is also a call for bear with us.
Yeah,
we are building this together. Yeah. So it's not that easy or that simple to change all the systems for that, and that's why it's intention of this session to discuss with you and to try to tackle as much questions as possible during this 1 hour of an information session. So with that, I would like to go now to the next slide to discuss the key dates, right? So I'm sure that you've seen this slide before in the previous session. Yes, exactly. So in this case, as you know, well, we are now having the deadline in June 15. And once you submit your application, we are committed to announce the decisions by August 1st. And then we will have another session now only with admitted students. So I know that you may have tons of questions still, like saying, well, what about housing? What about my visa? I don't know, the job, many of these things, health insurance. The intention is to discuss this in the next webinar.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that on August 15th.
Exactly. So now I guess that the main concern should be more into the application process. And also when I discussed with some of you during the reception, during the comprehensive final exam here at MIT, some of you expressed some concerns regarding the research proposal. So the idea is to discuss also some of these guidelines and how you can actually elaborate on a sound proposal for your application. All right, and then after that, of course, we have the September 1st. It's also the deadline to accept the admission in case you were accepted, and then all the things that are already in the website. So I will not go through this slide. You know this very well. All right. So first, let's go for some of the frequent asked questions. All right. So let me just show first this admission criteria. So this is information that we have in the website. First, of course, the only way that you're going to be eligible to apply for the blended program is that if you are part of the MicroMasters family, right? Which means you've been taking all these 5 online courses, the C01X, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4X, and also the comprehensive final exam. Also, we have the requirement of English. Some of you were asking this, like saying, well, do I need to present the IELTS or the TOEFL exam? Well, in case you are coming from a non-English speaking country, then you have to provide well, evidence that you are able to speak English, right? And and also, if you go to the website, you will find this requirement, and you will have options to receive a waiver on this in case. Well,
your bachelor's degree.
For instance, yeah, you've been in a 4-year program in the US, so there is no need for you to do it. But still, we are going to receive your video statement, right? And in the video statement, we are going to also use this information to make the assessment. Well, the committee is going to use this to make the assessment of your English level. The third is the research project. So we are going to spend a little bit of time on this during this information session. But in general, you are required to submit a 2-page description of your proposed research project. The video statement that I already mentioned, and the resume.
Yep, right. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the webinar.
Yeah, exactly, because it's also our intention to receive your resume prior to your experience in January next year, 2 recommendation letters, and the undergraduate transcript. So some of you also have asked about this undergraduate transcript because you are even requiring this from the university. You didn't receive it before. It doesn't matter. You can actually proceed to apply for admission in the blended program, and we can actually discuss this official transcript now. So now it's just an unofficial transcript is sufficient. And now also I forgot to mention that I know that many of you are still waiting for the official grades in the MicroMaster, right? So we talked also with the team, with Arthur here, and with Eva Ponce about this. And so far, we are gonna consider the provisional grades you have. And now it's being run some of the processes to validate the grades. But this is not this should not stop your application process. So go and with information you have received already. I guess you received it actually.
The provisional, yeah.
Yeah, but the last day of this, May 22 or 21st. So you can actually submit this information to the system.
But make sure you're truthful, because we'll go back and we'll check it. So.
Absolutely. If you're lying in your grades,
Yeah.
it doesn't look very nice. Yeah.
Sign.
Doesn't look very nice to the community. It's a good point. Thank you, Katie. All right. So, well, now when you want to apply for the blended program, you can do it through the website, scm.mit.edu, blended admissions, and then you just click in this red button that says Apply Now. So if you go here, actually, the admission criteria that I just presented in this slide is presented also in this website.
Right.
So in case you were wondering, you can always go to this website to confirm all this information. So if you click here, then you will get to the next slide that shows the grad apply system. And this is something that I just mentioned in the introduction. This grad apply system is built for programs that are from 1 to 4 years.
4 years,
yeah, exactly. So sometimes you are applying and says, well, it's 1 year, 4 years, select, and then you say, well, mine is 5 months. So what do I have to select? Well, go for the 1 year, right? But this is new. So some of the comments that you are saying to us or questions are actually helping us to build the system for next year. Mm-hmm. So in this home of the grad apply system, you have all these 13 options. We are not going to discuss all of them. We are going to go only to those that we believe you may have some questions, and also some of you have already asked these questions through email. So we will start with application information. So if you go to the next slide, thank you. So here you have different options, right? So we discussed, of course, that the blended program, as you know, is part of the MIT Scale Network. You know, all these different research centers we have all over the world and the different programs we have all over the world. And then here also, you can also apply for the MIT SCM program, but also in Zaragoza, right? The ZLC blended program. And you have the option here. It shows Master of Applied Science and Supply Chain Management. And this has created some confusion. I said, well, you told me that I could actually select maybe the Master of Engineering as well. Right? Well, you have both options, but now the system cannot support to have 2 different degrees for a single master program. So just please go and select Master of Applied Science, and we can discuss this later when you are accepted here. It's still important to mention that in this part, we really encourage you to pursue the Master of Applied Science. You know, in general, the difference that we discussed last time in the information session with Bruce, Katie, and Eva, right? was that the applied science degree is mainly for students that or candidates that are already enrolled in the industry. They have experience, working experience, and they intend to go back and also work in the industry. So it's in this case for the applied science degree, you must work on a capstone project. So the research project is going to be a capstone. It's research oriented, but it's very practical, right? Which means you're going to solve a practical problem from the industry. You're going to gain experience interacting with the industry, but it's not a research thesis, right? For the thesis, this requires a completely different view of the problem, requires more literature review, requires more positioning in research. This requires more effort in the work. And this is mainly, at least is how we are defining this alternative, is for those candidates or students that would like to pursue later a PhD degree, for instance. And still, with the Master of Applied Science, you can pursue the degree. But in this case, you're gonna work out stronger the research skills. Right? This is the main difference of these two. But still, we can have more time to discuss this later. The important thing now is that you can actually have both options. And please, in this grad applied system, just go and select the Master of Applied Science.
Right. So by checking that, we're not holding you to any specific expectation. This is definitely just the start of the conversation. So just keep in mind as you're going through grad apply that this wasn't built for this program. So just be flexible, like you've all been throughout this process, and we'll be great.
Yes, excellent. So, and you can, of course, select both programs. This is important to say. You can go and say, well, I want to apply for the MIT program or the Zaragoza or both of them. It's not because you select one or the other, you're going to get more chances or less chances, right? But you can be considered for both, right? All right, so now in the next option, well, in this case, I just mentioned this already, in the college universities attendant, you just need to mention the colleges that you have attended for the bachelor's degree, and you need only to submit for now an unofficial transcript. Right? There is no need for the official transcript. We will require the official transcript if you are admitted to the program. Right? Okay. Now, can we go to the next slide? Excellent. So now for the resume, test scores, work experience, I don't know, Katie, if you would like to comment about the resume and CV.
So for the resume, we want you to submit your most current resume, but then closer to when you're coming to MIT, we'll work with you and provide you a little bit of guidance, because right before you come in January, we will be providing a resume book that includes not only yourselves, but your colleagues from throughout the Scale Network. And so it's really important that your resume is very similar in format and content to your other colleagues throughout the Scale Network. So we'll provide you some additional support along the way. No worries about that. But for this specific resume, just submit your most recent resume, and then we can kind of go from there.
Exactly. Yeah, this is important now to mention because some of you have reached out for us saying, you know, can you please provide my resume to the companies? You know, can I do this prior to coming to January and to be fully enrolled? The answer is yes, if you are admitted, and then you have received also the training in the format for the Scale Network. And in terms also of the language requirement, same thing, right? So you need to provide the IELTS and TOEFL, let's say, results. And in case you've been, in an undergraduate degree or you are here from the US, there is no need for you to provide these results.
Right. So one person had written in a question about the waiver for TOEFL and asking if they have to submit any evidence for the waiver. So if you're saying that, okay, I went to a university that's here in the US, then yeah, submit that. But we're going to already see that on your transcript. So we'll put 2 and 2 together. Exactly.
So we were just discussing this. If still you have the question, let us know. But in general, if you have the evidence that you are either coming from the US or for an English speaking country, or you study here in the US, this is sufficient evidence to give you a waiver on this requirement.
Right.
All right. Okay, so the next one is now the results in your online courses. So can we please go to the next slide? Thank you. So in this case, as I said before, the provisional grades are good enough for now. So just go and put the information there, and please don't lie to us.
We'll find out.
Yeah, for sure. And we very soon, we expect, hopefully by the end of the week, we will get the final grades on this.
Results,
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that will be everything in this part. Now we can go and move for the research project, right? So many of you have been asking a lot of questions on this, and well, it's important to go through all these requirements. We have actually worked on a document, like very brief document that can give you some guidance. So we will post this document in the website today, so that you can actually
have a template.
Yeah, so you will have some information, some guidelines that you can use also for the research project. It's still all the guidelines and everything was also presented before, so you should be good on this. But still, let's move on this. Let's discuss some of the questions. So the next slide, we have, for instance, the different items that you should consider for this. So first, the research proposal should be practical, right? It's very important and relevant, of course.
Right.
So
all of you are coming from industry, so we want to feel that in your presentation.
Exactly. So the important thing here is that you are really solving a problem cares about. Right. This is very important. Some of you also have moved to a very, let's say, big scope of the project, right? So we receive people saying, well, we want to solve the bullwhip effect. Right?
Yeah, narrow it down.
Well, this is, if you solve the bullwhip effect, there is no supply chain management problem anymore, right? Now,
and then we don't have a program.
Exactly, we don't have a program to offer. Now, in general, try to find something that is reachable, in the time, that is practical and relevant, that can make an important contribution for a stakeholder, in this case, a company, an organization, etc. Right? So focus on that. Second, and company should be there, and this also has created some confusion. Like, well, should the company pay for my tuition? Should the company pay, for my vacation in Mexico? Well,
that would be great.
That would be great if you can make it, right? But this is not the requirement. Right? The requirement when we say the sponsoring company, we mean a commitment for the company, to provide data, to meet with you maybe weekly,
right?
Exactly, to be involved in the research project. So they are going to be like the customers of this research project. So this is why we say the sponsoring company. It could be, private sector, industry, government, NGOs, any of these organizations actually is sufficient to be a sponsoring company for the research project.
Right. It's important to mention too. So we're going to receive hypothetically 40 projects, and we're going to take the time and narrow it down. So there's probably only going to end up being about 15 to 20 projects.
Let's discussing that.
So we'll be working on that with you.
So we are going to try exactly to check this. I mean, this is an important part for the committee in the admission process. This is important to say, because in order to provide a degree from MIT, a master's degree from MIT, this part should be really strong. Right. So we need to make sure that we have a relevant project, and also that the students are capable of finishing this project in 5 months. So this is very challenging. We know this, and that's why the idea is that those that are selected, once we discuss and we see how we are going to make the assignment of the project, which one are selected, still we're going to provide more guidance on this later. Once you are selected, let's see, we will see you in January, and then we'll see how you do. No, we are going to work with you. So, exactly. So you're going to be required to do some pre-work before coming here. So as we said before, this is actually the third point. The project usually requires 9 months to complete, which is why these students need to do this pre-work before they arrive. You should submit this 2-page description, 1,000 words of the proposed research project. I will discuss a little bit more in detail what are the things that you should include in terms of the methodology, the research question, etc. And keep in mind that you should impress the review committee, right? Why is so relevant this project, right? It's like focus on the pain, who has the pain, and how you intend really to solve this, and how you can actually provide evidence in the proposal that you can actually complete this in 5 months. This is the critical part.
So I know a lot of people have asked, better question. What if they want to write 6 pages? We want it to only be 2 pages.
This is very important. Yeah, we are very serious.
Yeah.
2-page research proposal. So if you write 3, 4, we will not take it into account.
Right.
Perfect. All right. So shall we go to the next one? Yes, some of the questions, what should be included? Yes, continue. So first, the statement of the research question. So this is also very relevant, and we know that this is not that simple many times. So the statement of the research question shows what do you intend to solve, any research project, you have always certain questions that guide your research. One is what is the problem, right? Why is this problem relevant, right? What has been done before to solve this problem? What do you intend to do to solve this problem, right? Like different. So that's why it's a research project. Well, as I said before, who has this question? So it could be the industry, it could be the government, could be I don't know, a community, an NGO. So this is important to say who has actually the pain of this and how your research is gonna help to solve this problem. You should also have the scope of the project, what is included in the research and what is not included in the research. The methodology. This is also something important that we would like to discuss, because in terms of the methodology, well, imagine that in this case you can pick quantitative methods or qualitative methods, right? And you can select and say, well, I'm going to work in mathematical modeling, or I'm going to work with statistical analysis, or you have a variety of tools that you can use, and it's important for you to have clarity. How do you actually intend to work on the research project, right? And in this part, we strongly suggest, of course, to look for quantitative as well. And but in general, we do not work with benchmark research. I don't know if you would like to comment on this, Katie.
So every year when we reach out to companies to ask them, what they want to do for projects with our students, we always get one or two that come back and they say they would like to benchmark against another company. It's not something we do. It's not something we're good at. We want to do things new, different, innovative. So you should really, really focus on this when you're thinking about the scope of your project, and really, really take into consideration that it should be narrow in scope. I know 5 months, 9 months seems like a long time, but it's going to fly by really quick. And you want to make sure that the result of your project is impactful and influential.
Exactly. So, of course, some of the researchers that are going to be working as your advisors during this experience, they have a network, of course, of companies, people, and they can help to connect. But this is not the intention, right? The intention is actually to work in something that you are designing at this moment. And it's important, of course, to follow the next questions in terms of the data gathering, right? This is always a kind of a challenge when you work with real data or with companies, because the data is not necessarily readily available, and it's not necessarily clean enough to start working on this. So this pre-work will require also to work on this data so that you can actually come here and focus on just building the research or the contribution, instead of working for weeks or months to wait for the data
and to clean it up.
Exactly. So this is the one of why we really want you to comment on the research proposal. How do you plan to get this data from which stakeholder, and the type of analysis, as I said before. So I guess in general, we have answered all the questions, and in terms of the organization and everything. So if still you have some questions, just let us know. But I think by providing these slides and this information session, and also the document that we will upload to the website today, I'm sure that you're going to be all set and all ready to work on this research proposal.
And just remember, it's an iterative process. So the project that you submit with your application is probably not going to have a whole lot of reflection of what you originally submit. There's going to be a lot of tweaks to it, but we're in it together. So just remember that.
Yeah, and here now what works and does not work. This is also a table that we will include in the document that we will upload to the system. You can get a good idea, what in general students enjoy working on. These students that we are referring to are the SCM students from the residential program, which in general are expected to have similar interests like you. So things that work are mainly related to data analytics, optimization in terms of network, transportation, scenario planning, inventory management, risk supply chain management, routing, scheduling, all these problems that in general you've been listening to these discussions with Chris Kaplis for the last 2 years, right? Yeah. So I'm sure that you know what we are talking about here for these problems. And in terms of the other things that we mentioned, benchmark, best practices, key performance indicators, this is still too qualitative for what we expect that you could do here in a research project, right? All right. So, well, let us know if you have any questions here. And so far we don't have any, right?
No,
Oh,
I've kind of inserted some of the questions that people have asked
okay.
into our conversation.
Our friends are here with us. Do you have any questions on this?
I do have one question
Okay.
going back to transcripts. For people that have transcripts in other languages, is an unofficial translation good enough?
It is good enough for now. It is good enough for now.
Repeat the question, make sure.
Yeah, so the question is for those that are coming from a non-English speaking country, in terms of the transcript that is not in English, is sufficient to have an unofficial translation of the transcript? The answer is yes. For now, it's sufficient to have an unofficial transcript and an unofficial translation of the transcript. Relate the transcript, you're going to struggle because the committee will not be able to review your transcript. So this is something that we really need.
Yeah. So in terms of the letter of recommendation, someone was asking, is it mandatory to have one academic referee for their?
It is not
transcript?
mandatory, but it's always desired, right? If you can get a recommendation from your academic career and also from your professional career. This is, like standard, but please feel free to make the submission of any of the people that know you, not your relatives, and try to avoid conflict of interest, right? Just saying.
One other question that came in, someone's looking for a little bit more clarity around the sponsoring company. So what do they have to provide? Mostly just data and support. We're not looking for them to sponsor your tuition to come here. We're not looking for them to provide any financial, just the data and support.
Yeah, in general, the financial support that the students get from the companies, the sponsoring companies that are working with the residential program, is also to pay for the visits, for instance, right? So you pay for the visits, so you go there, you interview with some of the people that are involved in the problem. So this type of expenses are usually covered by the company, right? So this is what we will expect, but this is not mandatory. So as much as you can get on this is good for you. But the most important thing here is the commitment of the company, to meet with you and to be really, involved on the research project. You have a question?
I have one question. You said that this program is industry-oriented. So you want the project to solve some industry-related problem. Is that possible if I write a project proposal that want to solve social issues like climate change, like humanity? Is it okay?
It's the question is, we've been discussing about the focus of the program and also the project that is industry oriented in terms of the capstone project or the research project. And the question is it possible to focus also on social problems or problems of humanity? Like climate change and I remember the other humanitarian stuff. The answer is, of course, it's still to say I will solve the problem of climate change is like saying I will solve the problem of COVID effect, right? So if you solve that problem, then we will not have all these discussions of the last weeks with the Paris Agreement. But anyway, this is another topic. But the point is that no, if your research focuses on trying to build something, that of course is going to contribute to this general problem, but at the same time you have a stakeholder that cares about this. So you're going to work, for instance, in minimizing carbon emissions in a third-party logistics provider in the transportation network. This is a problem that is going to contribute to this, but at the same time, the company might be interested because it's minimizing fuel consumption, therefore cost, and or maybe some drivers related to the company's interest in terms of brand management. But this is like somebody's willing to take the time to work with you on this, right? If you don't have anybody that is willing to take the time, I mean, when I say anybody, I mean companies, government, NGOs, maybe this is not a relevant problem for them, right? So take this as a guideline.
Okay, so we have a few more questions
Okay.
from the online audience. They're asking, how detailed should the methodology be? Is it sufficient to say we would like to use a simulation, or do we need to provide details on exactly how the simulation will be built?
Yeah, if you can provide more details than just one word, it's always desirable, right? But, well, try to compensate this and to see how much detail you want to elaborate on this to stress out other parts of your research proposal. So the answer is, don't just mention one word. Elaborate at least a couple of sentences how the methodology is going to work out and how do you intend to use it.
Okay, what do you mean by future vision?
By future vision? I don't remember saying that. Future vision? Visioning. Yeah. In the table.
Okay.
Yeah, now I get it. Yeah, so it's in general, it's just to work in something that is going to happen very far away from now, and nobody at this moment is actually willing to spend time or money on this. It's really hard to make this type of a statements, and I don't want to sound like this is too far. We don't know if this is going to happen, but the point is, we work, of course, with the relevant problems that are going to be there for the companies in the next 5-10 years. This is what we do at MIT. But we also have companies interested in doing this, and they sponsor this. So if you do not find this, then don't work on problems that are not here at the moment for the companies, that are not relevant, and therefore you should not spend your time, at least not for a 5-month project in which you really need to get results and to make a contribution.
Right. The students are also asking if it's necessary to have a letter of commitment from the company that is sponsoring.
This is no. I mean, in general, I don't know what is a letter of commitment. We have sometimes the non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
But this is still something that we may discuss maybe a little bit later, right? Maybe for the next session.
I think too. So if you're working with your employer, you know what your employer is willing to commit to. Or if you're reaching out to a government official that you've been working with, you know the relationship that you have with them. So for the purpose of submitting your proposal, you just need to, internally, you need to know what kind of commitment you'll have from that person. We're not looking for you to submit any sort of like official certified letter saying that they're going to give you this, this, and this, right?
Yeah. And I was actually thinking also I totally agree, for sure. I mean, this is your commitment, right? But some of you asked me last time in the reception as well, during the comprehensive final exam, what happens if I have already a working visa? I have a working visa, and then should I apply for the F1 to be a student, and then how I'm going to get later the H1, for instance? And in that case, I will discuss this later, but in that case, there is a way to actually not to apply for the F1 and to keep your visa if your company provides a specific letter. But we will go back to that later in the presentation.
One more question.
Okay.
So someone apparently has a ton of letters of recommendation, and they want to know if they can send more than 2 letters of recommendation.
Well, the answer is no.
Exactly. Pick the best 2.
Exactly. All right. So okay, let's move on. If there are more questions, we will continue the presentation, and we will find a time to answer them. And also, Aaron is going to be answering some of these questions as well. All right. Now, in terms of decision and admissions, well, as you know, these decisions will be announced by August 1st. So you need to make the submission by June 15. And if admitted, then you must confirm whether you accept or not. And that to accept, you must submit, we discussed this last session, if I understand correctly, but you must submit by September 1st, so you will have 1 month. Of course, a deposit that shows that you're accepting the admission, and this later can be transferred to your account once you are a student here, and also the proof of funding. Right? This is just for the international students only, which is the proof of funding that you also need to provide to the embassy. Once you are going to be admitted to the country and also to the program here at MIT.
And that's a non-refundable deposit. Once they pay that,
yeah.
And they decide they don't want to come.
Correct. If they decide that they are not coming, it's not refundable. Right. If you come, then this is transferred to your student account. And but we can discuss this later. I mean, now you haven't been admitted yet. So once you are admitted, we will go through these details. So don't worry about this for now. What we want to say here is, once you make the submission, we will let you know by August 1st, and then we will give you 1 month exactly to accept or reject the offer. All right. So now, Katie, I will give you now the floor for the job search support.
Okay, good. So we've talked a little bit about this, but prior to your arrival, we will be giving you some resources in order to build your resume, so that when you come to campus in January, you're at the same point as the rest of your colleagues in the Scale Network. We're not sure exactly when that's going to be yet, but just know that that support will be there for you before you come. A lot of you are going to ask me, Katie, can I come to campus? Can I participate in any of the interviews that are happening in the fall? No, unfortunately, you can't. I'm sorry. But the good news is when you get here in January, you will have that opportunity to do all the same things as our residential students will do. So once you arrive on campus, you'll get career coaching, more guidance on resume writing, we'll do mock interview practice, and you'll be able to apply to all the same jobs that the residential students here on campus are able to apply to.
Yep, exactly. Yes, can we go to the next slide? Just to discuss also about this OPT or STEM.
So a lot of you have done your research and you know that the students that come for the 10-month program are eligible for STEM. Unfortunately, with this program, you are not eligible for OPT or for STEM. So that's very important for you to note. And it's very important for us to have that discussion before you come. So whether or not to give up your work visa that you have with your current employer, the key point is we're here to talk this over with you. We have the International Students Office. They'll work with you. We want to make sure that we set you up for success, and we're here to support.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, this is not up to MIT to decide about the OPT or STEM. This is for all the programs that are at least 1 year long. And this is, as you know, very innovative program. So now we are setting the precedent now, and we'll see how it goes in the future. But for now, it's not up to us to decide. So it's not possible to provide this OPT or STEM. Still, if you have already a working visa, there is different ways in which we can do it. We don't know all of these details because it's also new, but we already met with the International Student Office at MIT, and they are, as Katie mentioned, willing to provide all the support to help you in this part. In general, what we require is a letter from the company that you're working on.
Right.
You know, the legal office of the company to say that you are working there, that you are still receiving payment, that you are not going to be working with us at MIT, and then during that period they fully support you. And if we get something like this, you can actually be enrolled as our student with your keeping your STEM status in your working visa.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. So well.
So we have a bunch of questions.
That's great. So let's go with that. So let me just. Also just show this slide. It's a pity that I actually didn't write my email here. But
that email comes directly to you.
Yeah, it comes directly to me for now. No, it comes from me, for sure. So it's the scmb@mit.edu, and also the website of the SCM program. You can also find these there, the blended program. So in case you have more questions and we don't have more time to discuss this here, or you just take some time to reflect, you know, for what Jose actually meant, or Katie, you can always reach out for us and ask all the questions you may have.
Absolutely. Okay, so some of the questions that have come in. No company is ready to accept requests for project given non-disclosure agreement issues. Can we identify a problem, the sector, industry, and later see whom to see?
Well, in general, you need to find a sponsoring company.
Yeah.
This is the answer, and we know it's not easy. Right? That's why it's important to have as a requirement. But there is no other way for us to guarantee that you're going to be able to finish a research project with a company in 5 months. So this is part of the requirement. We know that it's challenging, but this is part of the requirement.
Okay. Another learner was asking what's meant by students good at or not good at. That slide was simply meant to illustrate, in our experience working with the students that we've had for the 10-month program here, these are the things that work best for them in terms of their research projects, and these are the things that don't work the best. We didn't necessarily mean good at or not good at. We're just trying to set you guys up for success.
This actually was taken from the input of the students. This is what they actually wrote. That's why we refer to those students, not yours, because we don't know you. Right? You may be good for that, but this is also the experience that we have and we wanted to share with you. I mean, the SCM program is the best in the world in supply chain management, so it would be good also to take the best practices of the students as well.
A lot of people are asking questions about proof of funding and what will be required in terms of proof of funds in the application process. Do you need to get the loan information? No, we don't want to. It's
exactly the same requirement that you have for the embassy once you come as a student. So you will know this information, but we want this information mainly because sometimes it may happen that the student says, I accept, makes the deposit, you know, and then suddenly doesn't provide the funds and then says, well, you know, I couldn't get the funds. And once you say it, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks before coming, then those students that were in the wait list means the opportunity to come to MIT.
Right.
And we don't want this. So if you cannot make it, of course, we need to give the opportunity to other student that is in the wait list to also come and try to enjoy the experience. But the requirement is exactly the same that international students have when they go to the embassy. They need to provide that they can get the funds to live, but also at the same time to support the tuition.
Okay. So a lot of comments are coming in that are saying, if we just have absolutely no idea about the research project, does the center have a list of projects that need research help that we can take on?
Not for now. This is a requirement, so don't tell us your name, because maybe we will not accept you. No,
come on, you guys, you're smart.
Yeah,
you can come up with something.
You've been with Chris Kaplis for all this time, so don't break my heart. I'm actually betting that these applications are going to be the best that we have received so far, right? Because of all the training that you've been having with Chris and all of this, I'm sure that you can solve these issues. But don't tell me who you are. So just delete that comment if you can, Erin.
Yeah, we don't want to see that.
No, this is just a joke. We will not take it seriously. But thank you for your question. But we are very confident that you're going to be able to make it.
And also, apparently, one student is already sucking up to you. They're saying, Josue, I must admit, you have a good sense of humor. Thanks, it calms our nerves.
This is great. I asked my sister to be enrolled and to be online to send some comments to me. Thank you for the comments.
Okay, is the minimum of 60% in the CFX exam mandatory to apply for the SCMB program?
That is correct.
Absolutely.
You need to get your certificate. You need to get the credential in the MicroMasters. Otherwise, you are not eligible to apply for the blend.
And then also people are still asking a lot of questions about the project proposal. Is it possible to have an opinion on the project proposal after submission?
Sure.
So they want to know if once they submit it, if you're going to give your opinion. Once you're admitted into the program, yes, absolutely. It'll be an iterative process. You'll get the opinion, but there's no way that you have the capacity to give your opinion on every single person's proposal. Like, that's not going to happen.
I'm very funny, guys. But not like that.
I think that's it. Yeah, no other questions are coming in.
No more questions?
You did a really great job.
We did, right? Questions? Aaron?
No?
You have any questions?
Oh, more questions are rolling in. Okay, so this is the last one. For the research project, do you need the sponsoring company nailed down before admission? Guys, we've answered this. In your proposal, please give us the information for the company that you're going to work with, the organization, the NGO. Do you have to have a letter of commitment from them? No, but you need to have an idea.
Right? Yeah. I think it's quite clear. So we need this clarity. Imagine that you're going to be part of the most innovative experience in education at MIT in graduate level, and you're going to come only for 5 months to do something that many students have done in the past in 10 months. With a lot of battles and challenges. So what we want is to help you now to work on this, spend the time now, even though you are not formally or officially admitted to MIT, so that you can come and really enjoy the experience and work on a project in 5 months and get actually all the competencies and the skills that you need to develop in order to get an MIT degree.
Right.
So that's why we are insisting on this. In your project proposal, research project proposal, you should have clarity what exactly you're going to do, with which stakeholder, how, the methodology, everything, and then later we will provide also the guidelines so that you can actually get all the support needed to finish the project on time.
Last final question. Someone has ideas for the project, but they don't have a company that's ready to collaborate with them. Since neither the application at MIT is confirmed or they don't have a non-disclosure agreement. So they're asking, can they, in their project, send in the idea, this is the company that I want to work with, but...
Can do that, but it's not, we do not recommend, we do not encourage to do that. If possible, go and work with the company, have the clarity that they are going to be with you working on this, and that's it. I mean,
right. And guys, you are going to be narrowed down. So there's, as you know, hundreds of thousands of students that have taken this course. There are thousands of students that chose to sit for the exam. There's almost 1,000 of you that, maybe passed the exam. We're going to narrow that group down to 40. Put your best foot forward. Put 120% of your effort into this, so that you make sure that you're one of those 40 people.
Exactly.
Like, it's simple.
May I ask, I think there might be some misunderstanding about once someone is accepted, we provide non-disclosure and we do
Correct.
all of it.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So can you
absolutely.
talk about that a little
Okay.
bit?
Yeah. So, well, would you like? Yeah, okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I work a lot with the companies when we're securing these projects. So once you are admitted, once we've decided that this is the project that we're going to work with, we have a standard process that we do with companies. We've been doing this for 20 years. So we have a thesis sponsor, a capstone sponsor project guideline book. So it has the non-disclosure agreement in it. It has the scope document. It guides them through the process 100%. Your job is to go out, have the conversation, come up with the idea, nail it down into 2 pages, and then once you're accepted, then we're going to help you from there.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've been doing this a long time, and we have all these sponsoring companies coming for the residential program. So we will give you all this support, and but now for you is to work on this research project proposal, to have it in 2 pages, to have clarity of what you want to do exactly, to go with the company, engage, and then make your submission. And if admitted, you will know more about us, right? But for now, it's still too soon to go into more details on this.
Do you want to take one final question?
Sure.
Okay.
Of course.
This really is the last one, guys, for real.
No, I mean, if you have more questions, you can
Reach
always
out individually,
exactly. You can reach out.
Okay, so they're asking, can you give some insight on how the admission committee will be choosing the applicants? So a little peek behind the scenes. What is weighted the most as far as chances for admission?
No.
These are all our secrets, guys. We're not going to
No. Well, we are going to take into account everything. I cannot tell you the weight, right? But everything matters. So far, you don't know anything. This is going to be a black box secret. What we are telling you now is work very strongly with your research project proposal.
put your best foot forward.
Exactly, and for sure we're going to take all the input and all the experiences that you've been having with the MicroMasters team, and this is going to be also an important and critical part for that mission. But in general, everything is important.
Good. That was the last question.
So if you have,
Thank you for all the great
if you have
questions,
more
guys.
questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. At scmb@mit.edu, or my email, which is my first name, Josue, which is very hard for everybody to pronounce. That is non-Spanish speaking. Is josue@mit.edu. All right.
Perfect.
Okay. So. Well, it's really been a great pleasure to be with you here, and we are very excited that you are joining in this experience, and hopefully all of you or some of you are going to be with us very soon in January, and also in all these discussions that we've been having regarding the research project and the job search and etc. So it's really great. Keep in mind that you are being part of the most exciting experience in education in terms of innovation at MIT and in the world. And that we are actually very happy that we actually can build something together of this magnitude.
Yeah. You guys are going to be the first. It's pretty exciting.
Yes. So, well, take care, and we hope to see you soon.